The Galactic Council chamber hummed with the low, resonant tones of power. Towering holographic displays flickered with data streams from 1,000 star systems, each one a testament to the Council's dominion over the known universe. At the center of the room, High Commander Zorith leaned back in his crystalline throne, his iridescent scales shimmering under the artificial light. His 4 eyes, each a different shade of violet, scanned the reports scrolling before him. The Council had ruled unchallenged for millennia, their authority absolute, their might unquestioned. Yet, as Zorith's gaze lingered on a peculiar entry from the outer rim, a faint unease stirred within him. "Report!" he barked, his voice echoing through the chamber. A subordinate, a wiry creature with translucent skin and elongated limbs, scurried forward. "High Commander, scouts have detected an unidentified vessel on the surface of Zephyria 9. It appears to be a primitive craft, but its energy signatures are unusual." Zorith's upper pair of eyes narrowed. "Unusual how?" The subordinate hesitated, his voice trembling. "The readings don't match any known technology. It's as if the vessel is drawing power from a source we cannot identify." Zorith dismissed the creature with a wave of his clawed hand. "Send a detachment to investigate. If they pose a threat, eliminate them." The order was given with the casual indifference of one accustomed to wielding absolute power. To the Galactic Council, the universe was a chessboard, and all other species mere pawns to be moved or removed at their whim. Zorith had no reason to believe this incident would be any different. On the surface of Zephyria 9, a barren world of jagged cliffs and swirling dust storms, the human couple stood side by side, their figures silhouetted against the crimson sky. The man, tall and broad-shouldered, wore a simple, weathered jacket that seemed out of place amidst the alien landscape. His companion, a woman with piercing green eyes and a calm, unwavering demeanor, adjusted the settings on a small device strapped to her wrist. "They're coming," she said, her voice steady. The man nodded, his expression unreadable. "Let them." The Council's detachment arrived in a flurry of blinding light and deafening noise. A dozen armored figures, each clad in the sleek, silver battle suits that symbolized the Council's military might, descended from their transport. Their leader, a hulking brute with a voice modulator that distorted his speech into a guttural growl, stepped forward. "By order of the Galactic Council, you are to surrender immediately. Failure to comply will result in your termination." The man tilted his head, a faint smile playing on his lips. "Termination? That's a strong word." The woman stepped forward, her movements deliberate, her gaze locked on the leader. "We mean no harm. We're just passing through." The leader barked a laugh, the sound harsh and mechanical. "Passing through? This is Council territory. You don't pass through without permission." He raised his weapon, a sleek, black device that hummed with lethal energy. "Last chance." The man sighed, a sound that carried both resignation and something else. Something the leader couldn't quite place. "You really don't want to do this?" The leader's finger tightened on the trigger. Wrong answer. The blast from the weapon should have vaporized the couple instantly. Instead, it struck an invisible barrier mere inches from the man's chest, dissipating harmlessly. The leader froze, his weapon still raised, his mind struggling to process what had just happened. Before he could react, the woman raised her hand, and the air around the detachment seemed to solidify. The armored figures crumpled to the ground as if an immense weight had been pressed upon them. The leader gasped, his voice modulator crackling with static. What are you?" The man stepped forward, his calm demeanor replaced by an intensity that sent a shiver down the leader's spine. "We're the ones you shouldn't have messed with." With a flick of his wrist, the leader's weapon disintegrated, its components scattering like dust in the wind. The woman knelt beside the fallen figures, her expression one of quiet sorrow. "We didn't want this," she said softly, "but you left us no choice." Back in the council chamber, Zorith stared at the live feed from Zephyria 9, his 4 eyes wide with disbelief. The couple, these seemingly insignificant beings, had effortlessly dismantled his best soldiers. His unease grew into something darker, something he hadn't felt in centuries. Fear. "Send reinforcements," he ordered, his voice uncharacteristically shaky. "Send everything we have." As the council's forces mobilized, the human couple stood amidst the wreckage of the detachment, their expressions grim but resolute. The man turned to the woman, his voice low. "They'll keep coming." She nodded, her green eyes reflecting the crimson glow of the sky. "Then we'll keep defending ourselves until they understand." The first wave of reinforcements arrived in a storm of fire and fury. Dozens of ships descended from the heavens, their weapons trained on the couple. The man raised his hand, and the sky itself seemed to bend to his will. The ships were torn from the air, their hulls crumpling like paper. The woman extended her arms, and the ground beneath the council's forces erupted in a cascade of energy, sending them sprawling. Zorith watched in horror as his forces were decimated. His mind raced, searching for an explanation, a weakness, anything that could turn the tide. But there was nothing. The couple was unstoppable. "Who are they?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. On the surface of Zephyria 9, the man turned to face the nearest camera, his gaze piercing through the screen to meet Zorith's. "You attacked the wrong people," he said, his voice carrying a weight that transcended the distance between them. "And now you'll learn why that was a mistake." The feed cut out, leaving Zorith in silence. For the first time in his long, unyielding reign, the High Commander of the Galactic Council felt the cold grip of doubt. He had unleashed his might upon a couple he believed to be insignificant, only to discover they were anything but. As he stared at the blank screen, a single thought echoed in his mind. What have we done? The section ends with the council reeling from their first encounter with the couple, their arrogance shattered and their fear mounting. The stage is set for the revelation of the couple's true identity and the escalating conflict that will follow. The Galactic Council's archives were a labyrinth of towering data banks and flickering holograms, a repository of knowledge spanning countless millennia. High Commander Zorith stood amidst the chaos, his iridescent scales dulled by the dim light, his 4 eyes scanning the ancient records with growing desperation. The defeat on Zephyria 9 had shaken him to his core, and the cryptic words of the human couple echoed in his mind like a haunting refrain. "You attacked the wrong people." Who were they? What were they? The answers, he was certain, lay buried somewhere in these archives. A low-ranking archivist, a timid creature with too many eyes and too few limbs, scurried forward, clutching a dusty data crystal. "High Commander, I believe I've found something." Zorith snatched the crystal, his claws trembling slightly as he inserted it into the nearest terminal. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing fragmented records of a species long thought extinct. The images were grainy, the text faded, but the name was unmistakable. Humans. Zorith's breath caught in his throat. Humans. The words stirred something deep within him, a memory buried beneath centuries of propaganda and lies. He had heard whispers of them, of course, everyone had. They were the stuff of legends, a species that had once rivaled the Council's power before vanishing without a trace. But legends were not supposed to be real. The records told a story of a civilization that had risen from obscurity to challenge the Council's dominance. Humanity's technological prowess was unparalleled, their resilience unmatched. They had forged alliances, built empires, and dared to defy the Council's authority. But their greatest strength had also been their downfall. The Council, threatened by their rise, had orchestrated their destruction. A war unlike any other had raged across the stars, ending with the near-total annihilation of the human race. Or so the Council had believed. Zorith's mind raced as he pieced together the fragments of history. The couple on Zephyria 9, they were not mere survivors. They were relics of a bygone era, living testaments to a species that had refused to die. And now they had returned. The implications were staggering. If the Council had failed to eradicate humanity once, what chance did they have now? On Zephyria 9, the human couple stood amidst the ruins of the Council's forces, their expressions a mixture of sorrow and resolve. The man, whose name was Elias, turned to his companion, a woman named Lyra. "They'll come again," he said, his voice heavy with the weight of centuries. "And again, until they understand." Lyra nodded, her green eyes reflecting the crimson glow of the sky. "Then we'll make them understand." As if on cue, the horizon lit up with the telltale flashes of incoming ships. The Council's reinforcements had arrived, their numbers greater than before. Elias raised his hand, and the air around him seemed to shimmer with latent energy. "They never learn," he murmured. Lyra stepped forward, her movements fluid and deliberate. "They will. Eventually." The battle that followed was a symphony of destruction. The Council's ships descended in waves, their weapons blazing, but Elias and Lyra moved with a precision and power that defied comprehension. Elias manipulated the very fabric of reality, bending space and time to his will. Ships were torn apart before they could fire a single shot, their crews left floating helplessly in the void. Lyra, meanwhile, wielded energy like a conductor wields a baton, her every gesture unleashing torrents of power that reduced the Council's forces to ash. Back in the archives, Zorith watched the live feed with a mixture of awe and terror. The couple's abilities were beyond anything he had ever seen, their power seemingly limitless. He turned to the archivist, his voice barely above a whisper. "Is there anything else? Anything that can help us?" The archivist hesitated, then nodded. "There's one more record. It's incomplete, but it might hold the key." The final record was a transmission, dated centuries ago, from a human outpost on the edge of known space. The audio was crackled, the video distorted, but the message was clear. "To anyone who finds this," the voice began, "we are the last of humanity. The Council has betrayed us, but we will not be erased. We have hidden our greatest secrets, our most powerful technologies, in the hope that one day, someone will rise to carry on our legacy. If you are hearing this, know that the fight is not over. The Council's reign will end. Humanity will endure." Zoritha's hands trembled as the transmission ended. The couple on Zephyria 9 were not just survivors. They were the inheritors of humanity's legacy, the bearers of its greatest secrets. And now they had returned to fulfill the promise of that ancient message. The Council's reign, it seemed, was indeed coming to an end. On the surface of Zephyria 9, Elias and Lyra stood amidst the smoldering wreckage of the Council's forces, their expressions grim but resolute. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Elias turned to Lyra, his voice low. "They'll keep coming, until they understand what we are." Lyra nodded, her green eyes reflecting the crimson glow of the sky. "Then we'll make them understand, no matter how long it takes." As the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded, the couple turned their gaze to the stars. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Council was regrouping, plotting their next move. But Elias and Lyra were ready. They had waited centuries for this moment, and they would not be denied. The legacy of humanity, their legacy, would endure, and the Council would learn, once and for all, the cost of their arrogance. The section ends with the Council reeling from the revelation of the couple's true identity, and the couple preparing for the next phase of their struggle. The stage is set for the final confrontation, where the fate of the Galactic Council and the universe itself will be decided. The Galactic Council's flagship, Eternity's Wrath, loomed over Zephyria 9 like a predator poised to strike. Its obsidian hull bristled with weapons, and its engines hummed with the promise of annihilation. High Commander Zorith stood on the command deck, his iridescent scales dulled by the dim light, his 4 eyes fixed on the planet below. The human couple had humiliated the Council, defied its might, and exposed its vulnerabilities. But now, with the full force of the Council's armada at his disposal, Zorith was determined to end this threat once and for all. On the surface, Elias and Lyra stood side by side, their figures silhouetted against the crimson sky. The air around them crackled with energy, a tangible manifestation of their power. Elias glanced at Lyra, his expression calm but resolute. "This is it," he said, his voice steady. "The moment they've been waiting for." Lyra nodded, her green eyes reflecting the glow of the approaching fleet. And the moment we've been preparing for. The first wave of ships descended in a storm of fire and fury, their weapons blazing. Elias raised his hand, and the air around him shimmered as he manipulated the fabric of reality. The incoming fire twisted and turned, redirected back at the attackers with devastating precision. Ships erupted in flames, their hulls crumpling like paper. Lyra extended her arms, and the ground beneath the Council's forces erupted in a cascade of energy, sending them sprawling. The couple moved with a synchronicity born of centuries of partnership, their every action a testament to their unparalleled skill and power. Zorith watched from the command deck, his unease growing with each passing moment. The couple's abilities were beyond anything he had ever seen, their power seemingly limitless. He turned to his second-in-command, a hulking brute with a voice modulator that distorted his speech into a guttural growl. "Deploy the Omega Protocol," he ordered, his voice trembling with barely contained fear. "We end this now." The Omega Protocol was the Council's last resort, a weapon of unimaginable destructive power. It had been designed to annihilate entire star systems, a final solution to any threat too great to contain. As the weapon charged, the air on the command deck grew heavy with tension. Zorith's 4 eyes remained fixed on the planet below, his mind racing with a single, desperate hope that this would be enough. Elias and Lyra stepped forward, their combined energy creating a portal that transported them directly to the command deck of Eternity's Wrath. The Council's forces froze, their weapons trained on the couple but their hands trembling with fear. Zorith stepped forward, his voice shaking. "What do you want?" Elias met his gaze, his expression calm but unyielding. "We want you to understand," he said, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. "You attacked the wrong people, and now you'll face the consequences." Lyra stepped forward, her green eyes reflecting the glow of the ship's control panels. "Your reign ends here," she said, her voice steady. "The universe deserves better than your tyranny." With a wave of her hand, the ship's systems shut down, leaving the command deck in darkness. The Council's forces dropped their weapons, their resolve shattered. Zorith fell to his knees, his 4 eyes wide with fear and regret. What will you do with us?" Elias and Lyra exchanged a glance, their expressions a mixture of sorrow and resolve. "You will face justice," Elias said. "Not as conquerors but as equals. The universe will decide your fate." As the couple turned to leave, Zorith called out, his voice barely above a whisper. "Who are you?" Elias paused, his gaze fixed on the stars beyond the viewport. "We are humanity," he said, "and we endure." The section ends with the Galactic Council's defeat and the couple's reaffirmation of their legacy. The stage is set for a new era, where the universe will be reshaped by the principles of justice and equality. The story concludes with a sense of hope and the promise of a brighter future, yet leaves room for the continued journey of Elias and Lyra as they watch over the universe they have fought to protect.